Imagine driving down a familiar stretch of highway, the kind you could navigate half asleep. The hum of the engine under your feet, that last strip of sunlight caught in the treetops, the faint rattle in the dashboard you always mean to fix, your fingers tapping out a private rhythm on the steering wheel. Then imagine, in the middle of that routine, the world just stops existing, not fading, not darkening, not blurring like a migraine aura. Erased. That is what happened to Elias Mercer. One heartbeat, trees, headlights, yellow lane lines stretching ahead. The next, a blank, suffocating whiteness, as if someone dragged a brush dipped in pure light across the entire world. His brain didn't even panic properly. No gasp, no flinch. He froze. His hands clamped around the wheel, gripping the last object he could still feel. He slammed the brakes. Instinct, not thought. Tires screaming. Something heavy swerving behind him, a horn tearing past. The steering wheel shaking violently beneath his palms. He felt everything except sight. A man's voice suddenly cut through the chaos. A door yanked open, cold air slapping his face. "Hey, look at me. Can you see my hand?" But there was no hand, no road, no shape, no shadow, no world. Only a weightless void pressing against his eyes. Too bright to be darkness, too empty to be light. I can't see," Elias whispered. And his voice sounded wrong, like it belonged to someone else wearing his mouth. At the hospital, he sat beneath fluorescent bulbs he couldn't perceive. A doctor raised a pen light. Click, nothing. Another click, still nothing. But the doctor watched his pupils shrink each time. Reflex perfect, hardware perfect, blindness impossible. Tests, questions, more lights he couldn't detect. His eyes stayed open, but no walls formed, no silhouettes, no motion. Just that blank, smothering whiteness. Then, without warning, he sneezed. A stupid, involuntary sneeze. And the world snapped back in one violent rush. The tray, the curtain, the doctor's startled face, the clock ticking above the bed. He blinked rapidly, chest heaving. "I can see," he muttered, almost offended by the disbelief around him. The doctor stepped back, shaken. "You were blind," he said quietly, "completely, and now you're not." But the strangest part wasn't the blindness. It was what Elias said next. "What do you mean? I've been fine." He didn't remember the highway. He didn't remember the whiteness. He didn't remember the panic. His mind had cut the entire event cleanly out, like removing a paragraph from a story. They told him not to drive, gave him a referral to neurology. He walked out, unsettled by the way the doctor had looked at him. Not confused, uneasy, because his sight hadn't failed. Something inside him had taken it away. Before that night, Elias lived a life so quiet even he struggled to describe it. 34, software technician, not brilliant, not dull, just steady. He lived above a grocery store, the neon open sign buzzing faintly through his bedroom wall each night. His mornings followed a gentle loop. The same chipped mug, the same bitter instant coffee, the same shoes he never tied properly. He liked walking more than driving, silence more than conversation, order more than spontaneity. People described him with harmless labels, soft-spoken, organized, a bit distant, nice enough. No psychiatric history, no trauma on record, no prescriptions, no allergies, perfect eyesight. He wasn't the type you imagine losing his vision in a contradiction-filled medical anomaly. A few days after the hospital, he stood in front of his closet, afternoon sunlight falling through the blinds in pale stripes. He grabbed a t-shirt, plain red, familiar. In the hallway, his neighbor Carla passed him with a basket of laundry. "Green suits you," she said. Elias paused. "It's red," Carla frowned. "No, it's definitely green." He walked away, feeling misaligned, like the world had shifted half an inch to the left when he wasn't looking. Colors looked wrong on the street. Traffic signs blended. Stoplights felt muted, uncertain. He booked a color vision test. He failed, not mildly, completely. Red and green fused into the same dull shade. Patterns that should have popped didn't exist. "You're severely colorblind," the technician said. "I'm surprised you didn't know." He walked home feeling like someone had swapped out the filters of reality. The next morning, hours before his follow-up, he poured coffee into his chipped mug, lifted his eyes, and froze. The stop sign outside blazed a furious red. The trees shimmered green. The world had color again. He passed the second test with perfect scores. The technician stared at both reports. "These can't belong to the same person," she whispered, but they did. Elias told himself it was stress, exhaustion, bad lighting, anything. But deep down, he felt it. Someone inside him was adjusting the world's colors without permission, and worse contradictions were coming. He started keeping a notebook. At first, it was boring. Dates, times, symptoms, what he ate, how long he slept. But boredom didn't last. First break. The allergy that switched on and off. Elias had never been allergic to anything until he drank a glass of orange juice. His throat tightened instantly, chest burning, skin erupting in red patches, collapse. At the ER. Severe citrus-induced anaphylaxis, they said. Never drink orange juice again. He nodded, trembling. The next day, anxious, reckless, he tried again. Nothing. No rash, no swelling, no reaction at all. He wrote the event in his notebook. Later, beneath his entry, a new line appeared in different handwriting. "Please stop." Elias stared at the page. He lived alone. Second break. The notebook started answering. Over the next week, entries he didn't remember writing began appearing, some tidy and looping, some tight and slanted, some childlike. They weren't random thoughts. They responded to him. "You're not the only one here. Stop testing the allergy. Pay attention to the switches." And then the line that chilled him, "Your blindness wasn't yours." Third break. Blindness triggered by emotion. During another exam, the doctor asked him to read an eye chart. Row 1, row 2, row 3. Halfway down row 4, white out, instant total blindness. The doctor didn't flinch, didn't call a nurse. She started talking about work, stress, the highway, fear, identity. As each emotion shifted, the whiteness held. Until his tone changed, a calmness slipping in, sharper, colder, like someone else had stepped forward. And the letters snapped back into focus. The doctor wrote one sentence on her clipboard. "Identity-dependent sensory shutdown confirmed." Elias walked out trembling. His vision wasn't failing. Someone inside him was taking it. Someone who could blind him. Someone who might be protecting him. Dr. Mariana Klein didn't offer a handshake or small talk. She walked in with the controlled precision of someone who had seen this pattern before, just not often. She placed 2 fMRI scans on the wall. Both were Elias's brain, both taken days apart, both identical except for one thing, the visual center. In the first image, the visual cortex glowed with warm, steady activity, bright, responsive, alive. In the second, the same region was pitch black, not weakened, not damaged, just silent. "Elias," she said quietly, "this is the version of you who can see." Her finger hovered over the glowing scan. "And this," she tapped the dark one, "is the version who cannot." Elias stared, barely breathing. "That doesn't make sense," he murmured. "People don't just switch vision on and off. That's impossible." "In the physical sense, yes," Dr. Klein said. "In the psychological sense, it's rare but not impossible." No anatomy lecture, no neural pathway diagrams, just one pointed explanation. "This isn't blindness," she said softly. "This is a door being locked from the inside." He looked up sharply. "What door?" "The door between your eyes and your awareness," she replied. "You don't lose the ability to see. You lose the identity who has access to sight." Elias swallowed hard. "So, what you're saying is a different version of me is taking over?" "That's exactly what I'm saying. She lifted his notebook, thick with multiple handwritings. Most people with dissociative identities don't experience sensory changes. Their alters share limitations. But in extreme trauma, identities sometimes develop their own physiology. She flipped to the citrus reaction. One identity is severely allergic, she said. Another is not. A tap on the failed color test. One identity is colorblind, another sees perfectly. Then her finger landed on the blindness entries. And one identity, she said gently, cannot see at all. Elias felt his own vision tremble at the edges. So, which one am I? He whispered. Dr. Klein held his gaze for a long moment. I don't know yet, but Elias, a pause, you might not be the original. A cold stillness spread through him. What do you mean, original? In cases like yours, she said, the identity handling daily life isn't always the first one created. The true host, the one who lived the trauma, sometimes steps back. Another identity steps forward to function. She closed the notebook gently. The blind identity exists for one reason, to protect the others from whatever it saw. His heartbeat thudded against his ribs. What did it see? Dr. Klein didn't blink. Something you were never meant to survive. A soft whiteness tugged at the corners of Elias's vision, the beginning of that curtain again. He forced himself steady. Tell me, he whispered, has this happened before? To anyone else? Dr. Klein nodded. Yes, not often, but enough times to recognize the pattern. And she opened the folder of stories. The Blind Soldier, France, 1917. A young soldier in the trenches watched his closest friend fall inches from him. He didn't scream. He didn't run. He simply stared, too long, too directly, too deeply. The next morning, he woke up blind. Doctors found perfect eyes, normal reflexes, no damage, but he saw nothing. When asked why, if I look, I'll see it again, he whispered, and I can't survive that twice. He regained sight only after the frontline identity dissolved. The original personality never returned. The Woman with Two Worlds, Germany, 1990s. She claimed to live in two separate realities. In one, she could see. In the other, she walked through darkness. Psychiatrists assumed delusion until fMRI scans proved otherwise. When her sighted identity surfaced, the visual cortex lit up. When the blind identity took control, it went dark, like a switch flipped off. Same brain. Two sensory maps. A divide created by survival. The Child Who Forgot the Light, U.S. 2000s. A 7-year-old girl went blind after witnessing a single, unnamed event. Doctors thought she was pretending until they realized she was terrified of seeing anything, not just the event. She played normally, ate normally, talked normally, but at the faintest reminder of that day, she went blind instantly. By adolescence, she had no memory of the trauma. But the blind identity remained, a barrier of darkness. Dr. Klein closed the folder. These aren't supernatural stories, she said quietly. They're psychological barricades. She studied his face. Your blindness isn't the illness, it's the guardian. The words settled heavy and cold inside him. His blindness wasn't random. It was a warning, a shield, a survival mechanism. And that terrified him more than the blindness itself. Elias tried returning to normal life, whatever pieces of it remained. But normal slipped through him. Some mornings he woke in his own voice. Other mornings, he didn't. His steps sounded wrong. His handwriting shifted without permission. Colors changed. Emotions felt borrowed. And sometimes, just for a moment, the world flickered white at the edges. A reminder. A curtain. A quiet hand pulling him back, not to punish him, not to confuse him, to protect him. He felt it now, the blind identity waiting inside him like a shadow pressed against a closed door. A presence built from fear, duty, and silence. One restless night, he returned to his notebook. He opened to a clean page and wrote slowly, What are you protecting me from? He stepped away. Let the apartment breathe, tried to calm the tremor in his chest. Minutes later, he returned. The page was no longer blank. A new sentence sat there, written in a hand that wasn't his. I went blind so you wouldn't have to see it. The whiteness bloomed at the edges of his vision, soft, pulsing, as if the blind identity had surfaced just long enough to answer him. Something inside him shifted, broke, warned, protected. He couldn't tell which, and maybe he didn't want to, because whatever that identity had seen, whatever memory it held behind that locked door, was powerful enough to blind a part of his mind. And now Elias understood the chilling truth. If the blind identity ever stepped aside, he would finally see what happened, and it might destroy him.